Wow, manifestations were awesome. Um, if I would have thought about it ahead of time, I'd have had Rob cue up a song by Joe Fair, an old one, but a great one, Keep Walking, Son. So after this teaching, if you have time, go to YouTube and type in Joe Fair, Keep Walking, Son. I'm sure that it's out there. It's an awesome song and it fits with tonight and with the manifestations. And Betty's prayer about the situations that she's in and the sale of her house and the need to have that's a real stressful time in a person's life when you're trying to sell your home and pack everything up, and that can be really stressful. Gail's prophecy tonight, I wrote down one specific phrase that the Lord said, push through the hardships that we are enduring, to push through those. And Rob's prophecy, so much encouragement from God to walk, to move forward, to keep going. He's even said something to the effect that you're not going to stumble very often. We're going to stumble, but not very often. I thought that was awesome encouragement, because sometimes in this life, it just comes crashing down on us. Have you ever felt that way? It just, whatever it might be, it feels like it's just crashing down. And, it looks like there may not be a way out. Whether it's financial woes or natural disasters, I call them unnatural disasters, but disasters that put pressure on your life and just mess things up, and it feels like the weight of the world's on your shoulders. Maybe becoming a victim of racism or ridicule. That goes around a lot. Or maybe a divorce. We've all experienced some of these. Everybody has. Each one of these is a pressure. I like to say it feels like the world's crashing down upon you. Maybe an unexpected pregnancy, that just doesn't fit with the time. It brings stress in a person's life. It brings, doubt. It brings just pressure or unbearable stress. Ever felt that? I know I have, especially in the last couple months. Just an unbelievable amount of stress. Or the loss of a job, or deep family problems that don't seem to be able to get resolved. And it weighs on your heart. It weighs on your life. These are real things in real life. They're not just, things that we can avoid. They happen. Sickness, where, especially now, there's so much going around. Or the death of a loved one. Or maybe being ostracized. I know what that feels like. Or just a feeling of despair, just not knowing what to do, not knowing which way to go. Some of these things can even cause you to bring your own faith into question. So what do you do when stuff like this happens? I know what I've done many, many times. You go to the Bible, you pray, obviously. And you go to the Bible and you look for a section of scripture that will lift you up and give you encouragement and give you answers. Go to Ephesians, go to Romans, go to Galatians, anywhere where I can get that encouragement. But one of the things I've been thinking about a lot is, what about going to the Old Testament records? The records of people that have endured and pushed through. That's what the Lord said tonight. Push through the hardships that you are enduring. Go to the Old Testament records and read about people that have pushed through a similar hardship that maybe you are experiencing. You know, there's plenty of examples, hundreds of them. Rob's prophecy of all the encouragement. Remember what Romans 15:4 says? The things that were written before, they were written to teach us that through perseverance and the encouragement of the scriptures, we may have hope. It's when we go to that stuff that's been written before, we learn to persevere, to push through the hardships in our lives. We learn to persevere and not worry, not live in trepidation about maybe what we are experiencing, but rather the hope of knowing that we will make it through the fire, like Job. Hey, there's one that we can read when we're in, a lot of pressure on our life. He had a little bit of pressure on his life. He had a little despair, tragedy. Or Paul and Silas when they were in jail. What did they do? And part of this is if they can do it, so can you, so can I. If they can persevere and push through a hardship, so can I, so can you. That's part of it. It's the encouragement of the scriptures that shows me that there is a hope at the end of it. I can persevere. I can withstand this hardship. It will not break me. I won't let it break me. There's so many different, David and Goliath. David beat a Goliath in his life. I can beat a Goliath in mine. Or even when it comes down to something very simple, like the trepidation of speaking in public. That's the biggest fear that human beings have, is speaking in public. And I know that because I did. And at one point in time, I ran some Dale Carnegie classes and got to help people over that fear. But Moses had that fear. Oh, no, don't send me. I can't talk. I'm not eloquent of speech. And God said, okay, I'll give you Aaron. He'll talk for you. Yep. Those records are there for us to learn from and learn perseverance and gain encouragement so that we can see the hope at the end of the tunnel, like a light at the end of that tunnel that we're walking through. There's a great record that we read last Wednesday in our Let's Talk Bible fellowship in Judges chapter 11. And it's fantastic. This is a record about a person that has some real trouble in their life. What do they do? And how do they react? And then there's a little gem in this chapter that we'll get to, and it just pops out. It's absolutely gorgeous. But in chapter 11, and this is getting near the end of the book of Judges, this is somewhere around 300 years after the death of Joshua. The book of Judges covers a period of 350 years, thereabouts, give or take. But it's about 350 years for the book of Judges. And in verse 1, now Jephthah, the Gileadite, was a valiant warrior. Remember that. He's a valiant warrior. But he was the son of a prostitute. Tough way to start your life. Think he got picked on in the playground at school? I bet he did. Made fun of at synagogue. Whispered about, fingers pointing at him, made to feel real small. And Gilead was the father of Jephthah. Gilead's wife bore him sons, but when his wife's sons grew up, they loved their brother Jephthah. No, No, they drove him out. They ostracized him. They threw him out. They said to him, you will not have an inheritance in our father's house, for you are the son of another woman. That's nice. They made him a pariah. You know, here he becomes the victim of prejudice. He's the son of a prostitute. Oh, horrible. Look down their nose at him, point fingers at him, whisper about him, call him names, ostracize him. No inheritance. That's pretty rough in that culture. Even in our culture today, everybody else earns an inheritance, what little bit out of a family, but not you. How does that make a person feel? Little pressure on Jephthah's life, you know, a lot of hardship, some sadness. I can't even begin to think. So, verse 3, Jephthah fled from the face of his brothers, and he lived in the land of Tob, or Tov. The B, the Beth in Hebrew, is really the sound of it's hard to say it, a VW, a V. So it can end up being translated as a B or a W or a V. That's the Beth in Hebrew. That's a Tov, and it means good. And if you learn Hebrew, even today, Boker Tov. Boker Tov means good morning. Or Yom Tov. Yom Tov means good day. Or Erev Tov means good evening. And so Tov means good. He went to someplace good. And Gilead is about center of the land of Israel, but off to the east of the River Jordan. So this Tov is up by the northern part of the Galilee. Today, that would be the Golan Heights, or back then Bashan. That's where this Tov most likely was at. So he goes north. Gilead is, I've got a map. Let me show you. Let me share my screen here. Oh, I'm disabled.
Try it again.
Ah, there it is. Can y'all see that? Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Here's Gilead. Remember, Jephthah is a Gileadite. So he's from this area. Well, only down to the Jabbok River. Ammon, which is interesting because Ammon, the capital of Ammon, is Amman today, Amman, Jordan. But Ammon covers the land from the Jabbok River down to the Arnon River, and from the desert to the Jordan. Gilead is just north of that, and Tov would be up here, the Golan Heights, and in Bashan, right? So Jephthah leaves Gilead and he goes up here. And this is a really beautiful area, very lush, gorgeous pastures, great areas to feed livestock, trees. It's really beautiful. You get out in here, it's not so beautiful, nothing but sand. And then down below Ammon, get down here, is Moab. And then below Moab is Edom. So these atlases are fantastic. This one is Bill Schlegel's satellite atlas. If you don't have a copy of it, it is a must-have. It is so wonderful. The maps are fantastic. It's very accurate. But anyway, go back here. Jephthah goes up to Bashan. And empty men, it's a really interesting phrase, empty men. John Shainite in his commentary explains that. Empty men, they were probably men similar to Jephthah. One reason or another, down on their luck, maybe ostracized, whatever it is, they're great men. These are not evil men. They're not highway robbers or anything like that. They're good men. They see the good in Jephthah, and empty men gather themselves around Jephthah. Maybe empty because they were like Jephthah. They didn't have anything. Here's Jephthah. He's destitute. And they went out with him on raids. Raids most likely against the enemies of Yahweh. These guys are faithful guys, just like you. You're a faithful person. Don't ever doubt that about yourself. Don't ever let anybody make you doubt your faithfulness. Maybe I should be a little more faithful. This wouldn't happen to me. No. Look how you come to these fellowships. Why? Because you don't have anything else to do? Your TV's broken? You come here because you love to fellowship with God's people. You love the Lord. You love Scripture. You love His Word. You keep getting up. You won't fall down very often, the Lord said. We will fall down. But you keep getting back up. Why do you keep getting back up? Why not just stay down there? You keep getting back up because you are faithful. These guys are faithful too. They see Jephthah, they recognize the good in him. They join themselves to him, and they start raiding the enemies of Yahweh. That's pretty cool, because Jephthah was a valiant warrior. And it came to pass after a while, that the children of Ammon made war against Israel, their next door neighbors in Gilead. They're going to make war with the Gileadites. That's hard to say. And it was that when the children of Ammon made war against Israel, the elders of Gilead went to get, guess who? Jephthah, the guy they ostracized. Why? Oh, he's a valiant warrior. And he and his buddies have been out raiding. They go get Jephthah. They go to get him and bring him out of the land of Tob. It kind of reminds me of, this is the reverse of this. In our military, and not just ours in the United States, almost every military, we have people that have been very, very specifically trained. They're called Special Forces and Navy SEALs and others, Rangers. They got a bunch of other ones, Green Berets. And we love them. We absolutely love them, because when our country needs to be defended, they go to work, and they work hard. And they do things that aren't pretty. That's the nature of the business. But when public opinion turns against that conflict, they loved them before, they're fantastic. They're leading the charge. They're winning the war. But when public opinion turns against that battle, that war, they become a pariah. They are ostracized. They come home and they're called baby killers or whatnot. This is that in reverse. Same thing. It's amazing. They didn't like Jephthah for a while, but now we're in trouble. Let's go get Jephthah. He'll help us. And they said to Jephthah in verse 6, Come and be our commander so that we can fight against the children of Ammon. And they couldn't do it themselves. Oh, we need a leader. We need somebody to go before us. And Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, is it not you who hated me and drove me out of my father's house? And now you want me to come back and save your heinies? So why have you come to me now when you are in distress? The elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, yeah, that's so. That being so, yeah, we did that. But let's put that behind us, okay? We'll just put that on the shelf. We have returned to you now so that you will go with us and fight against the children of Ammon, and you will become our head over all the inhabitants of Gilead. And Jephthah said to the elders of Gilead, if you bring me back to fight against the children of Ammon, and Yahweh gives them over to me, I will be your head. And the elders of Gilead said to Jephthah, Yahweh will be our witness between us, between you and I, between you and us. Yahweh will be a witness if we do not do in accordance with your word. Huh? So Jephthah went with the elders of Gilead, and the people made him the head and commander over them. And Jephthah spoke all the words, or all his words, before Yahweh in Mizpah. You know what's interesting about this particular record in Judges? Most of all the other records about the judges. And God called Gideon. And God called, Deborah. And God made Deborah judge. God made Gideon judge. Doesn't say that about Jephthah, which is real interesting. I don't know what it means, but it's there. So where are we at here? Verse 12. Then Jephthah sent messengers to the king of the children of Ammon, saying, what is there between me and you? What's the problem? You got a problem with me. What's the problem between you and me? That you have come to fight against my land. The king of the children of Ammon answered the messengers of Jephthah, well, it's because Israel took away my land when they came up out of Egypt, from the Arnon as far as the Jabbok and to the Jordan. So now return to those lands peaceably. This isn't true. Israel didn't take that land from the Ammonites. They took it from the Amorites, not the Ammonites. Boy, it gets confusing because they both sound very similar. But when Israel came up out of Egypt, and they came to, I think, Kadesh Barnea, they came over and wanted to come up through Edom. You can read about this in Numbers 20, 21, and 22. They asked the king of Edom, can we pass through your land? We need to pass through your land. We're heading north. Can we pass through your land? He said, nope, can't pass through my land. Well, we'd like to pass through your land. Nope. Going right through the middle of Edom and then up through the middle of Moab and then continuing north is a trade route called the King's Highway. East of that, in the desert, was another highway, if you want to call it that, called the way of the way of the wilderness. It's a lot harsher to go through the way of the wilderness and a longer route than to travel up the King's Highway, right up the middle of Edom and Moab. But King said no. So they go east, travel around Edom, and they asked the king of Moab, can we travel through your land? Sure would make it easier on us. We got the thousands of people and all their goats and sheep. We need an easy path. He said, no, you can't come. Nope. Okay. They go around Moab. They come up to the land of the Amorites. And hey, can we pass through your land? Absolutely not. And the Amorites attack. And so, and God says to the children of Israel, the land of the Amorites I give to you. It's yours. So the war summarization, this is the Cliff Notes. The Israelites defeat the Amorites. They kill Sihon, the king, one of the kings of the Amorites, and then run north up to where Og was at, up in Bashan. They defeat Og and his army, and then come back down into the land of the Amorites, which is now Israel's. And this guy's wanting to rewrite history, saying, well, that land was ours. You took it from us. No, it wasn't theirs. It was the Amorites, and God gave it to the Israelites. Some of these records like this is why the Jews and Christians alike get criticized, and the Bible gets criticized. See, these guys were warmongers. They took the land away from the rightful people that lived there. No. The earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. The earth is the Lord's and all of its inhabitants. And who he desires to give the land to them it belongs. But this king of Ammon trying to trick Jephthah and, say, you guys took it from us. But Jephthah opens up History 101 class on this king. Jephthah sent messengers again to the king of the children of Ammon, verse 14. He said to him, this is what Jephthah says. Israel did not take away the land of Moab or the land of the children of Ammon. For when they came up out of Egypt, Israel went through the wilderness to the Red Sea and then came to Kadesh. That's Kadesh Barneum. Then Israel sent messengers to the king of Edom, saying, please let us pass. I just summarize this. Please let us pass through your land. But the king of Edom would not listen. That's in Numbers 20. And they also sent to the king of Moab, but he would not consent. That's 21. So Israel stayed in Kadesh. Then they went through the wilderness, that way of the wilderness, and circled around the land of Edom and the land of Moab, and came to the east side of the land of Moab, and they camped on the other side of the Arnon. But they did not enter the territory of Moab, for the Arnon was the border of Moab. So they're north of the border of Moab. And Israel sent messengers to Sihon, king of the Amorites, the king of Heshbon. And Israel said to him, please let us pass through your land to my place. They wanted to go up, to their place. And eventually would want to cross the Jordan and go west. But Sihon did not trust Israel to pass through his territory. So Sihon gathered all of his people together and encamped at Jahaz and fought against Israel. And Yahweh, the God of Israel, gave Sihon and all his people into the hand of Israel, and they struck them down. So Israel took possession of all the land of the Amorites and inhabitants of the land. They took possession of all the territory of the Amorites from the Arnon as far as the Jabbok, and from the wilderness as far as the Jordan. So now Yahweh, the God of Israel, has dispossessed the Amorites from before his people Israel. And you would take possession of it? I don't think so. Will you not take possession of what? Would you not take possession of whatever Chemosh, your God, would give you to possess? Sure they would. So whatever Yahweh our God has dispossessed from before us, that we will possess. And yeah, I love the logic in this. I love the lesson that he's speaking. And he knows his history. This guy knows his history. And now, are you any better? Yes, better than Balak, the son of Zippor, king of Moab? Did he contend? Yes, contend against Israel. Or did he fight? Yes, fight against them. Certainly, that's in Numbers 22. Remember Balak and Balaam, the record of Balaam? I love that one. One donkey talking to another donkey. Where are we at here? While Israel lived in Heshbon and its daughter towns, and in Aroer and its daughter towns, and in all the cities that are along the banks of Arnon, 300 years, why didn't you rescue those towns during that time if they belong to you? As for me, I have not sinned against you, but you are doing me wrong by making war against me. And here you go. Remember I said, it doesn't call Jephthah a judge. And he didn't consider himself as one. Yahweh, the judge, judge this day between the children of Israel and the children of Ammon. But the king of the children of Ammon would not listen to the words of Jephthah that he sent him. So, and here comes the little caveat that's in the, Jephthah, he's pushing through that hardship, right? And he's coming to his hope of, restoring his life, restoring his good name. And he vows. Then the Spirit of Yahweh came on Jephthah, and he passed through Gilead and Manasseh. Then he passed on to Mizpah of Gilead. And from Mizpah of Gilead, he passed on to the children of Ammon. And Jephthah vowed a vow to Yahweh and said, if you will give the children of Ammon into my hand, then it will be that whatever comes out of the doors of my house to meet you when I return in peace from the children of Ammon, it will be Yahweh's. And I will offer it up for a burnt offering. That doesn't mean he's going to burn it up. That doesn't mean, what it means is it is now dedicated to Yahweh. It belongs to Yahweh, whatever it is. If it's a goat, a sheep, and Yahweh can do with it whatever Yahweh wants. If it's a hammer that comes out first, it's Yahweh's. So Jephthah passed over to the children of Ammon to fight against them, and Yahweh gave them into his hand, and he struck them from Aor as far as where you come to Minnith, even 20 cities, and as far as Abel Karamim, with a very great slaughter, so that the children of Ammon were subdued before the children of Israel. And Jephthah came to Mizpah, to his house, and behold, his daughter. Now, look, it would be awesome. It would be fine if the record stopped at verse 33. End of story. And happy ending, the end, right? It could have ended there, verse 33. But the Lord has this added. And Jephthah came to Mizpah to his house. And behold, his daughter came out to meet him with tambourines and with dancing, rejoicing. Her father's home, victorious. And she was his only child. Besides her, he had neither son nor daughter. And it came to pass when he saw her that he tore his clothes and said, Alas, my daughter, you have brought me down. I was really happy. I was rejoicing. You've brought me down and have become among those who trouble me. For I myself have opened my mouth to Yahweh, and I cannot go back. One of the awesome things that Jephthah must have understood was the principle written in Ecclesiastes 5:5. Obviously, Ecclesiastes 5:5 hadn't been written yet, but the principle was there that it is better not to vow a vow than to vow and not pay it. Right? That's what it says in Ecclesiastes. He says, I cannot go back on my word. I've spoken this to Yahweh. This is another difficult situation for Jephthah. It's a tough one to push through. This is his only daughter. And it's a very difficult situation for her. She's just a young woman. And especially in that culture, she's not going to have a husband. She'll never bear children. How many times might she have to answer in her life questions like, why aren't you married? Don't you like children? Everybody likes children. Everybody wants a bucket full of them. Or she's going to be whispered about, pointed at. It's probably not what she had envisioned for her life, I would think. And she said to her, a young woman, she said to her father, let this thing be done for me. Let me alone for 2 months, that I may depart and go down on the mountains and weep over my virginity, I and my friends. And he said, go. And he sent her away for 2 months as she departed, she and her friends, and wept over her virginity on the mountains. And it came to pass at the end of 2 months that she returned to her father, who did with her according to his vow. No, he didn't burn her up. He dedicated her to Yahweh. And the reason we know that he didn't burn her up is and there's people that say that. I think God, that Jephthah tied her to a stake and, lit fire to her. He did according to his vow that he had vowed, and she never knew any man sexually. And it became a custom in Israel that the daughters of Israel would go each year to retell the story to the daughter of Japheth. Each year. Well, they couldn't do that if she was burned up. The Gileadite, 4 days in every year or in a year, to encourage her, to encourage her and remind her of the vow that Japheth had made, and turn this difficult situation into a situation of joy. But why is this little section about Jephthah's daughter in here? Remember that what was written before was written so that we would have patience and persevere and receive comfort and encouragement and push forward to the hope at the end of the trail, blast through the flames. When we read this, there was one thing that really popped out. Did any of you see it? Really popped out. Look back in verse 30, is that 36? Yes. What did she say? Do to me according to what has gone out of your mouth. And she said to him, my father, you have opened your mouth to Yahweh. Do to me according to what has gone out of your mouth, since Yahweh has taken vengeance for you on your enemies, on the children of Ammon. Do to me according to what has gone out of your mouth. And when we read that, my mind exploded. My mind exploded. Let's go to Luke chapter 1. We're moving towards the Christmas season. I'm sure John's going to be doing many teachings on the birth of Christ and the period of time leading up to the birth of Christ. But in Luke chapter 1, remember, in stressful times, times of trouble, times of trepidation, or any distress, those records in the Old Testament are there. And in the book of Acts and the records in the Gospels for us, they're there to give us encouragement and show us that we can persevere. Verse 1, now that in the 6th month, the angel Gabriel was sent by God to a city of Galilee named Nazareth, to a virgin who was betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph, of the house of David. The virgin's name was Mary. And going in to where she was, he said, greetings, favored one. The Lord is with you. But she was greatly perplexed at the saying and began to deliberate in her mind what kind of greeting this must be. What is going on? And the angel said to her, do not be afraid. Well, why would he say that? Unless there was some fear in that situation. Come on. We all would love to meet an angel, right? I would love and talk to him. But if an angel just popped into your living room and announced his presence, there might be a tendency to be a little bit concerned. What have I done now? What did I do? Just tell me, what did I do? I'm sorry. She was afraid. She would be. Remember, all these people in the Bible, they're people. They're not spiritual robots. They just got a cue card stuck in a slot in their head and they responded accordingly. No, these are real human beings, just like us. And we're just human beings just like them. And they're living life in real time, doing real things. Mary's a real young woman, maybe the age of 16. Do not be afraid, Mary, for you found favor with God. Oh, yeah? And look, you will conceive in your womb and give birth to a son, and will call his name Jesus. He will be great, and he will be called the Son of the Most High, and the Lord God will give to him the throne of his father David. And he will reign over the house of Jacob forever. And of his kingdom there will be no end. And Mary said to the angel, wait a minute. Wait a minute. How will this be, seeing that I don't know a man sexually? And the angel said to her, well, something's going to happen that's never happened before, Mary. The Holy Spirit's going to come upon you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. And for that reason, the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God. Do you think maybe Mary said, what is Joseph going to think? Holy mackerel. What is my mom going to say? What's my dad going to say? This is not an easy situation for Mary. This can be a very stressful moment. That's why the angel said, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. She has to work through this in her mind, deliberate, work through this, and put the pieces together. And look, your relative Elizabeth, she's also conceived a son in her old age, and this is the 6th month of her who was called barren, for nothing will be impossible for God. And Mary said, behold, I am the servant of the Lord. May it be done to me according to your word. And the angel departed. There's no proof to what, there's no proof to this. But I was talking to John about it, Shanghai. And I said, listen, John, here, what do you think of it? I mean, I know there's no proof, but certainly Mary would have heard all of the records of the judges while in synagogue, maybe many times. Certainly she would have read them, maybe read them many times. What's the likelihood that during this moment in time, she reached back in her mind and remembered Japheth's daughter and gained encouragement from that record in that moment, and was able to overcome any trepidation that she had and not be afraid, and be able to boldly proclaim, I am the servant of the Lord. May it be done according to the words that just came out of your mouth. No, it's awesome. I think it's reasonable. It's not, nobody can prove it, but it's reasonable that may have happened. And it's also logical that could have happened. But I wondered many times how Mary, a young woman of 16, could have had the presence of mind to answer the way she did. A very young woman, full of life, anticipating her wedding, anticipating her future life with Joseph, her betrothed, culturally understanding that she'd be whispered about, pointed at, ridiculed. Her integrity would be called into question. It's a stressful moment for Mary. She's a real person in real time, but she gained encouragement, she persevered, and she stretched forth to the hope at the end. All those records are there in the Old Testament to show us if they can do it, we can do it. Maybe Mary thought that about Japheth's daughter. If she could do it, I can do it. And that's it.